all measuring tapes come with an end hook. Metric or inch based, it doesn't matter. They all have an end hook. This end hook allows you to take accurate inside and outside measurements. In this video, I'll tell you about features of this end hook and how it relates to inside and outside measurements. Now, an outside measurement is not a measurement that you take outdoors, and an inside measurement is not one that's taken indoors. If you look carefully, the end hook on this tape measure, which is made of black sheet metal, moves. It's an intentional, purposeful manufacturing design feature on the tape. The blade material is yellow, and you can see that the end hook is riveted with 4 rivets in this case. You can see the rivet ends here, and you can see the rivet heads here. The rivet heads protrude through the hook, and the end hook, you can see that there is an intentionally designed hole size that's bigger than the diameter of the rivet that's used for mounting the end hook on the tape measure. So the amount of play that you have on the end hook is calculated, carefully calculated. The amount of play is not 1/16 of an inch, forget that number. The amount of play is exactly as much as the thickness of the gauge the end hook is made out of. Okay, I hope you can see it. You can see the amount of motion here where the blade and the end hook meet. And the only way your tape stays accurate for inside and outside measurement mathematically is if the amount of play is exactly the same as the thickness of the gauge of the metal the end hook is bent out of. Now, on a big tape or a wider tape with a thicker, heavier gauge end hook, that motion may be more than on a skinny tape with a small hook that features a lighter gauge end hook. That motion must be less. You can see that it mounts with 2 rivets instead of 4 rivets, and the holes in the end hook and the diameter in the rivets that mount the end hook, that intentional difference allows motion, allows this play again. You can see the same thing on the back side, same idea. So whatever gauge of metal this end hook is bent out of, that's exactly how much it should move in and out for inside and outside measurements. Now, on an outside measurement, let me just show you with this beautiful block of wood here. For an outside measurement, the end hook moves away from the tape, lines up the end of the tape with the end of the material. That's how an outside measurement is done. For an inside measurement, the end hook is not so much used, as it's more like it's in the way. It needs to move towards the tape. It needs to move out of the way. For an inside measurement, measurement is taken from a reference surface that lines up with the end of the material, and the measuring tape runs into it for an inside measurement. So consequently, if this end hook is bent, dinged, if the tape measure is dropped and this end hook is damaged on it, it's not going to be accurate. It's made of mild steel, so you can bend it back with a pair of pliers. Maybe you need both, or 2 pairs of pliers, one holding it this way and another holding it this way, and carefully aligning that the corners on this end hook, make sure that it's flat and runs straight. And if these little clearance gaps are clogged up with iron filings, sawdust, cement dust, concrete, then this is not going to be accurate. Now, depending on your line of work, this tape measure may or may not be accurate, because it's not really designed to be a precision instrument. This is designed to be a precision instrument. The tape measure is not. However, with this movable end hook, it can be made fairly accurate, or within a 1/64 of an inch. So how do you make sure that your tape measure and the amount of play on your tape is accurate. Very straightforward, super easy. Let me show you here. Let me see, maybe let's just get a little elevation here. So this is just the end of the table here. Hook your tape on it, pull it out, and put some tension on it. Oops, put some tension on it for outside measurement, yes. And make a mark anywhere you like. How about 6 inches? There, that's how you make a mark. Then grab something for an inside measurement. So I'm using this block of wood, so I can take an inside measurement. I run the tape into it, and if I make sure that this one doesn't move. Okay, so this material has to be square with the end of the table that I just measured. Alright, and if my mark lines up with my 6-inch measurement mark accurately, let's get a close-up. Let's get really close to this one. I'm just gonna inch everything closer. There. So that's for my inside measurement there. It lines up, so my tape is good for inside and outside measurements. Super straightforward. Now, the end hook, you can measure your end hook with a caliper if you like. You can measure it with a sheet metal gauge, probably the easiest one. And you can also see this play. You can measure the play with a ruler. I'll show you how it's done. Let's see. I'm not going to show you how to use a caliper. That's a completely separate video. But let's see. 1/16 of an inch. Sorry, 16 gauge. It's just a coincidence. 16 gauge is 1/16 of an inch. If you flip it around, you can see decimal numbers on the other side. Gauge 16 is that number, 0.0625 inches. Here, calculator. 1 divided by 16, so that's 1/16 of an inch, is 0.0625 in decimal format. So 16 gauge just happens to be 1/16 of an inch. Happy coincidence, okay? Nothing else. So as the gauge number goes up, the metal gets thinner and thinner. So you can see that this end gauge, this end hook is not 16 gauge, not 17 gauge, not 18 gauge. Maybe we can go with 18. Yeah, happy with 18. Maybe a little gappy. There, 19 gauge is good. 20, no. This end hook is made of 19 gauge sheet metal. It's not 1/16 of an inch. The amount of play should not be 1/16 of an inch either. It actually is, if I flip it carefully, that number, 0.0437 inches. So that's 2/100ths of an inch off. That's not a lot. That's 1/3 of a 16th, if that makes sense to you. Alright? It's okay, it's not 1/16 of an inch. End of story. The same applies for end hooks made from thinner gauges. Let's measure this one. Just give me a few seconds here. Oops, wrong side. There. So that was 19 gauge. That's 20, 21. Yeah, this end hook is made of 21 gauge. That's the slot that it fits. 22, it doesn't fit there. So this end hook is even thinner than the other one. 21 gauge would be that number, 0.0343. Alright, so last little bit of show and tell here with this ruler. If I hook the tape to the end of the table and go to the 6-inch mark and line up the ruler with the 6-inch mark on the tape measure, now I'm pulling the tape that way for an outside measurement, and I'm not touching the ruler, I'm just lining it up. Now I'm going to hold the end of the tape measure there. I'm going to hold a finger on it, and I'm going to compress it so that it's just by the amount of play. So you can take a direct reading on against the ruler how much play is there. There, it's not exactly a 16th, it's less than a 16th, it's 3/4 of a 16th, something like that. So that's what I wanted to share about end hooks and tape measure accuracy. How you take care of these things is up to you, depending on how accurate work you want to do. One more thing, don't go super critical on these end hooks. They are not straight even when they are new. Due to manufacturing variables, the end hook, let me just get you a little nice close-up, the end hook is not straight. I'm using the caliper as a straight edge now. I don't know if you can see that it's got a slight camber to it there, very little camber to it. Alright, don't try to remove it from the end hook. This little bit of camber makes it a little bit stronger. Don't try to flatten it out on an anvil with a hammer or whatever, just work with it, okay? This tape has never been used, has never been dropped. Alright, these little manufacturing inaccuracies just happen, okay? Whatever brand of tape measure you pick. So don't worry about it, you can still make it work. It's gonna be accurate enough for within 1/64 of an inch.